Welcome back to the podcast. This is Nadia. I am a pelvic floor and lymphedema physical therapist. And here on Ask Me About DT, we discuss mostly at this point topics about pelvic floor. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity that you guys have given me to start sharing this information. It's super important, and thank you for the support, and thank you for listening and sharing so that others can learn. Right now, we're in the middle of what has turned out to be a series of 8 reasons why the pelvic floor gets weak. I did a little video on this. I have a YouTube channel at DTPT Wellness where I did a little 10-minute, actually I think it was like a 7-minute video of this. But here on the podcast, for some reason, I am a little more chatty and I think it's a little more casual. And so there is so much more that I want to share. And I'm going to change the pacing on this one a little bit because I really want you to kind of feel what I'm saying and feel like we're having a conversation. Pelvic floor health. So we know that the pelvic floor are the muscles that sit at the bottom of your pelvis. And so we think muscles. But the pelvic floor is extremely connected to your brain. It is hardwired into your nervous system. It is hardwired into the part of your brain that is geared towards survival. Let's face it, the pelvic floor, this is where birth happens. This is where conception, not the muscles itself, but the area. This is where conception happens. This is where birth happens. And so survival is hardwired into this area. And so your brain and body are extremely connected here. And so that's why I wanted to go at a little bit different pace for this one, because a lot of us may not realize this. But just like in everything else, in terms of how the pelvic floor is related to our everyday life, I want us to look at a couple of examples because we know this, we just don't realize what it is. All right, I got a little game for you. I want you to fill in the blank. All right, so here we go. Everybody should get 100% on this. You may not, if you know the wording's a little different, but you're gonna kind of catch on. You're gonna catch my drift. So here's the first one. Fill in the blank. I was so nervous, I almost blanked myself. Or I was so nervous that I blanked myself. So fill in the blank and tell me what that answer is. All right. The next one is, you almost scared the blank out of me. Now, if anyone has not heard one of these 2 terms, you need to write me a comment and let me know. But these 2 things show you how emotion or fear or nervousness is directly linked to your pelvic floor. So if you're not sure what the blank is, I'm going to fill it in for you. So I'm actually going to have a potty mouth. So, I've been waiting actually to have a potty mouth, but this is my first opportunity. So I'm going to fill in the blanks for you. Let me tell you what it says. I was so nervous, I almost pissed myself. So, there are variations of that word, but that's a saying that I'm sure that you've heard before. And then the next one is, you scared the shit out of me. And so we're talking about urination and bowel movements. And if you have never had this experience, you have at least heard of it. And you honestly feel like when you get scared, like for example, let's say you have to go and give a presentation, or, like somebody says, hey, we need to talk. You get nervous. And with that nervousness comes the urge and desire to urinate. Or the same thing, like somebody comes up behind you and scares you. Oh, here's a nice, decent little one. In Finding Nemo, the little squid, somebody came up behind her and she like farted or something. And she's like, oh, you made me ink. So it is hardwired into our system that emotion, or in this case, fear, also links into our pelvic floor. Why am I emphasizing this so heavily? There are a lot of us, like the way the world is right now, we are under significant stress. There has been no other time in life where the human mind and human body has been under so much consistent stress. And we may not recognize it. We may just think of it as everyday life, but our body recognizes it. And so there are many times where people will come into me for pelvic floor dysfunction and they're having issues with frequency, meaning they feel like they have to urinate all the time, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, etc. And there is no physical reason why this is happening. So for example, like normally you would say, okay, so this is a form of incontinence. So there was no previous incontinence. This person has lived their whole entire life, no injuries, no damage through childbearing or any of that stuff, or even men. And all of a sudden they have this frequency, this urgency, this need to go to the bathroom all the time. Or even we can look at bowel function. You might find that you have upset stomach or diarrhea, or even what we would call irritable bowel syndrome. And one of the things I ask them, I say, okay, at what point did this start? And not in all cases, but in many cases, they can pinpoint when it started. And I say to them, what was happening in your life at that time or shortly before that? And for a lot of people, it could be they changed their jobs, they bought a house, they got in or out of a relationship. There is some sort of significant life change or life event that had happened around the time these symptoms happened. For example, during COVID, oh my gosh, during COVID, so many people ended up with pelvic floor dysfunction because of the uncertainty and the anxiety that the world was going through. Stress. And like I said, our consciousness may not register it as stress, but our body is hardwired for survival. And this is a stress. This is a threat. So your body doesn't know the difference between a lion chasing you or you having a deadline or you living in an environment where there's a new virus where we don't know how to treat it, what the overall effects of it's going to be. Your body takes all of those stimuli and treats them the same way. It treats them as danger. So why, when you're scared, do you feel like you have to pee or you have to have a bowel movement? And in some cases, you might feel like you have to throw up. You might have to vomit. I'll give an example of that. Recently, unfortunately, there was a death. Someone close to me experienced a death. And this is a person who's pretty stoic and, they didn't want to show significant emotion, but they kept saying, I feel like I need to vomit. I feel like I have to throw up. And for a lot of people, vomiting in front of other people is uncomfortable. It's embarrassing. But I try to explain to them, do it. This is your body's way. So this is you going through the fight or flight response. And when you're going through the fight or flight response, your body shuts down digestion and elimination, or it evacuates. So you will throw up, you will urinate, you will defecate. Your body eliminates these processes because any sort of blood or energy that was focused in these areas, it's going to start redirecting it outwards to your muscles, to your brain, to your eyes, because it is now putting you in that state of alertness. And like I said, it doesn't know the difference between being chased by a lion versus having a deadline at work. This is how your body responds. And so I found, like I said, I wanted to kind of change the pace of this because I really wanted you guys to get that connection. And so let's go back to my patients who've come in, who have urgency, who have incontinence, and it is linked to a particular event. A lot of times just having a conversation with them and explaining that link kind of cures them. That's the thing. Once we bring this to our consciousness and we learn coping strategies and healthy coping strategies. So in one of the episodes earlier, I mentioned breathing. And Oh my gosh, breathing is like one of the most amazing tools that we can use to change our state. I mentioned deep breathing. Deep breathing, oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful gift to give to yourself every day. As a matter of fact, the first thing that I teach every client that I work with is how to breathe, how to do a deep diaphragmatic breath, how to put your body in a state of ease, and how to use that to counteract times when you do kind of go into that fight or flight without really needing to be at that point. So diaphragmatic breathing, just, oh man, I don't even know how to describe it. I would hope that each and every one of you have had the chance to go outside, like a beautiful, fresh spring morning or summer or whatever your favorite season is, and just take a deep breath in through your nose and take in that whole atmosphere, that freshness, that crispness, and then exhale. I mean, even just doing it now, it's amazing. So the first thing that I teach each and every client is how to take a deep breath. Because amazingly, as adults, a lot of times we don't know how to do that. As we get older, as we go into a stressful lifestyle, as we tend to hang out in that fight or flight, low tone state, our breathing becomes more shallow. It becomes higher up into our neck. This is also another reason why people have a lot of neck pain and tension, because they're using accessory muscles, the muscles around their ribs, around their neck, to breathe, because they're breathing shallowly and high. And so just take the opportunity, sit in a supported position, lay down, let your body relax, take some tension off, breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. So let's try something. Here's my gift to you. This is what I give to every single client that walks through my door, the gift of taking a deep breath. So one of the really good techniques to take a deep breath is called box breathing. What you're going to do, you're going to take a nice slow inhale over the count of 4. You're going to hold that breath over the count of 4. And then you're going to release it slowly over the count of 4. So hopefully this translates well through the podcast, but I'm going to do that for you. So I'm going to breathe in. And obviously I can't really count while I'm breathing in. So I'm going to breathe in over the count. You know what? Maybe I can snap. I'll try to snap. I'm not sure how well that picks up, but here we go. So I'm going to breathe in over the count of 4. I'm going to hold it for a count of 4. And then I'm going to release out through my mouth for a count of 4. That feels amazing. So if you take nothing else from this, take that and just try it. See how it feels on your body, and use it whenever you feel yourself anxious, whenever you feel yourself irritated. If you're having a hard time focusing, doing that deep breath really brings you back to center. That's why it is such an essential part of yoga and other practices, deep breathing. So your nervous system, if you can use breathing to calm it down, if you can have mindfulness to calm it down, it can also calm down your pelvic floor muscles. So yes, this series is about how your pelvic floor muscles get weak. And so if you are in a heightened stage of anxiety, stress, fight or flight, your pelvic floor muscles are tight, or a lot of times they're deactivated, because like I said, your body eliminates functions or interest or focused in functions that are not necessary for survival at that time. And so being in a constant low level state of fight or flight, which honestly most of us are, causes pelvic floor weakness. Fear, anger, sadness, anxiousness, worry, all of these things kind of shut the pelvic floor down. Joy, however, activates it. It was so funny. I had a client the other day, because a lot of times, like even a simple principle of learning how to breathe, a lot of times clients have a hard time with that. And I was working with a client and trying to teach them how to do this breathing, and also how to engage their core. And they couldn't get it. They could not get it. But then we did something or said something and they laughed and like, oh, I felt it. So I'm like, oh, your pelvic floor is a happy pelvic floor. It likes to laugh. And that led to more laughter. But honestly, your pelvic floor is a happy pelvic floor. It prefers, and who doesn't? It prefers things that are peaceful, joyful, engaging. And one of the ways to kind of give it that nourishment and that attention is through breathing. And so thank you so much again for listening into this episode. I really wanted to just kind of take the time to expound on this because, like I said, we don't think about it. We think, pelvic floor is muscle, but these muscles are, you can pretty much say it's a part of your brain. And that made me think of a joke that refers to males. But honestly, there is a significant connection between your mind, your subconscious, and your pelvic floor. And becoming more aware of that and also using breathing to help to center you and to calm you can really be beneficial to your pelvic floor and your overall health. Thank you again for joining me on this one. I really hope that you were blessed by this one. Let me know. Leave a comment, leave a star rating. Really just let me know how this episode touched you or affected you, or is this something that brought awareness to something in your life that you previously were not aware of? And also, is this the first time that you're hearing or realizing that your pelvic floor is attached to your mind, that huge mind-body connection? We're still on the series of what makes the pelvic floor weak. We've got about 2 more items to go. Thank you for sticking in there with me. And I look forward to talking to you about the next 2 topics. Until then, love yourself, love others, and always bring kindness to the world. And take some nice deep breaths. Bye-bye.